Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back. This is a continuation of the organic modeling series. My name is Eric Mazowski, and in this tutorial, we're going to start giving our model some shape. Up to this point, what we have is the topology defined, but it's completely flat. So, the first thing that we need to do is fix some little annoyances that happened when we converted this over to a surface. Now you can go ahead and open up the file that came with this tutorial to pick up right here, or you can use your own file that you created. Now, if we select our object, go over to the Modify panel, we should just have Editable Poly at the top. We can now click on Vertex Submode, which is these three little points, and let's zoom in really close on our forehead. So we have several points here. Let's turn off our snaps since we really don't need them now, and choose our Move tool. If we click and drag on one of our points, you can see that they're not attached. Okay, these are still independent polygons. So what we need to do is we need to weld these all together to create one nice continuous mesh. So this is pretty easily done. All we do is we click and drag over all the vertices. Then on the right hand side, underneath Edit Vertices, you'll see Weld. Click on the little box next to Weld. This will bring up a dialog box for the weld options. Now you'll notice down here it says before 480, after 149. Now sometimes if you add a lot of detail, you may accidentally weld two vertices together or collapse two vertices together. That shouldn't be. So often what I do when I first bring up the weld threshold is I first decrease this down to 0. So we got 480, 480. Then I increase it by one click. Then we see that it says 149, which is the same amount that we had later. So that's a really good indication that all of these have been welded. Just click OK. Now, if we click and drag on one of these points, you can see that it's attached. Okay, so now comes the real meat of this method. If we go into both views, like if you're zoomed in, just click on the Maximize button or press Alt-W. And what we want to do at this point is we want to start giving this guy some depth. And to do that, we're basically just doing a very straightforward movement process. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're just going to take these points and align them to the key features in the left, or in the left view. So this is why it was really important to make sure that your images line up, because if they line up here and then you find out that they don't line up on the left view, you're going to be making a lot of adjustments that will look right in one view but not in the other. So let's first select all of these points that are right on the border, that go right down the middle. We want this to be a consistent straight seam all the way down, so that when we mirror it, we have a nice clean line. So if we select all those vertices, then underneath Edit Geometry tab, close to the bottom, there's a section that says Make Planar with an X, Y, and Z. If we click on the X button, it will align all those objects in the X-axis, so making it a perfectly straight line. It's exactly what we needed. Okay, so now We switch over to our left view, still with those selected, and we just click and drag on the x-axis to drag them out. Now you may notice something here. Notice how some of the left reference plane is clipping our geometry. If we look in our front view, see this turquoise line? That's our left plane. We didn't position it correctly. So let's get out of vertex mode. Let's right click in the viewport and unfreeze all. We can now select our reference plate again and then move it far enough to the side to where it's not going to interfere with our object. We can now right click on it and do freeze selection, so we can't select it anymore. And then we need to remember to do the same for the front. So there we go. Okay, so let's select our turquoise object again and get back into vertex mode. And now what we want to do is we just want to take these individual points and start matching the profile as best we can. Now you don't want to drag in the y-axis or in both axes at the same time. Just use the x-axis because we know everything is lined up over here, so we don't want to move it up and down or to the left and to the right in this view. We just want to give it some depth. Now one thing you may notice is that it's a little difficult to see what's going on with this because we can't really see the reference plane through this object. This can be easily fixed. If we right click on the object, go down to its properties, on the left hand side here we have see through object. If we activate that, it makes it semi-transparent. We can also accomplish that with Alt-X. Now you may notice a difference between these two views. This has nice edges defined. This one does not. Remember, we can get that back by right-clicking on the left viewport name and choosing Edged Faces. So now we just click and drag and try to just align these as best we can. And remember, only move them along the x-axis. If you end up clipping, part of the surface, make sure you only use the X. And if, say, down here we have, notice how a lot of the chin is actually protruding past our profile line here. That's alright. We can add a lot of detail later on. We just want to keep it simple and keep things lined up. Okay, so we did this first row all the way down. Now we basically just go to the next row. So I'm just going to select these on the forehead, switch over to the left view by right clicking in it, and now just continue to drag over. Now the forehead is a fairly flat area usually, so that means that the vertices of the current line are going to be pretty close to those of the line in front of it. That, in essence, will flatten it out. Okay, so now we just want to keep on moving down. So I'm going to select these two right at the bridge between the eyes. Bring those up a little bit. Okay. Grab the ones for the nose. Bring those forward. And then start tweaking. Now try not to get too much overlap of points at this stage. At the end there will be plenty of overlapping parts, especially on the inner part of the eye, because we can't even see it from this side. because it's round. So just try to get things lined up as best you can, but still recognizing or still being able to distinguish points. Now, this point right here, can see it joins up with the nostril. So what we want to do is we just want to bring it over until it reaches the nostril. So we just keep on doing this for the various points. So this one actually goes past because there's a little dip right underneath your nose. And here's the lip. There. Now I highly recommend that you work in layers. So you work your way from the right side out to the left. And so this goes right to basically the corner. And we'll select some of these chin ones. Drag them over. Remember again, line them up. If you drew in your guidelines for your side view, use those for additional tweaks. So you can drag that. And let's go to the next one. And you can start to see how the surface is forming. Bring that back a little bit. Actually, these guys are way up here. And this guy matches that line. This one matches that line. So we'll go to the next set, which is... Now you'll notice that if you don't go in order, things get a little bit more confusing. So you just want to make sure that you try to keep going in order. You can still, it's not going to ruin anything if you go out of order. It just might make things a little bit more difficult for you. And so it's pretty easy to tell which ones you've already modified and which ones you haven't, because when you select one in the top view and you see it along this left border, you know that you haven't moved it yet. So that one can go up to there. And actually these are further up. And so you just keep on doing this for the entire setup. Okay, for all of the points. So this one goes right inside. Goes right inside too. This one goes right to the line. And so on. So let's jump forward a little bit and see this at another state that's a little bit further along the line. But before we go there, just notice how we're getting our topology in there. It's transferring through. We're getting these nice curved arcs right from the beginning. So as you're positioning these, try to keep in mind that very rarely does an organic shape have a straight line. So see this right there? That's basically a straight line and shouldn't exist. So you take a look at the underlying shape that you want to get and tweak it accordingly. So try to get some nice curves flowing between areas. Okay, so let's jump ahead real quick. Okay, real quickly here. The eye is a very difficult spot because there's a lot of overlapping shapes and it's a little bit hard to tell what is going on just from the side view. So this is probably going to be one of the more difficult areas that you're going to approach. a key idea here is to line up what you've got. Okay, so right here, this should be the bottom of the eyelid. This one right here should be right in between, and the next one down should be very close to that blue line. You can now work your way to either side of the known points to start to fill in the gaps. So this is one instance where going out of order may actually be easier than going in order. So and you just continue along and just keep on doing this, trying to keep everything, recognizable, trying to create nice smooth curves between objects. And so this goes up here, you go right about there, and so on. Okay, so that will do it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll end up going over basically how to clean this up, how to make sure that your surfaces are going in the right direction, and following this guy's actual, muscle tone and bone structure. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to email me or post on the forums. Thank you.